Creation, God's handiwork, shows us his infinite creative genius in his design and engineering of this earth and universe. Part 1 of 3. Fair use document is for educational purposes only. Dedication of this PowerPoint video presentation is dedicated to God and his glory in Jesus Christ, and to the propagation of his truth and his gospel of Christ to this world of sin, death, and Christ's second advent. Note, this presentation is produced for those who are seeking for light. Creation Week. 7 actual days of creation. The seventh day was a day of rest. God's handiwork. Defining terms: design, to create, fashion, execute, or construct according to a plan. Devise, contrive, engineer, a person whose job is to design or build machines, engines, or electrical equipment, or things such as roads, railroads, or bridges using scientific principles. Can a person design something without engineering it? Art in general and designing fashionable clothes are examples. How about designing a flying contraption without using scientific principles? Is that possible? It's just design with little engineering, if any. Design without engineering. Now, do you think these contraptions can actually fly? Did the Wright brothers have to incorporate scientific principles of flight in their flying machine in order to fly? Some facts about the Wright brothers. 1900. Wright brothers' first flight in a glider. They were not the first people to fly. There were others who paved the way. The Wright brothers invented and built the first ever powered airplane, powered by an aluminum motor of their own invention. They were the first to develop the scientific method of analyzing and evaluating their ideas before actually becoming human guinea pigs in their test flights. They did this by creating a wind tunnel and using exacting instrumentation to analyze and evaluate their hypotheses. This pioneered the way for the modern era of aviation. 1901, wind tunnel test. Here's their first wind tunnel they constructed, and we see all these instrumentations that they developed on their own, and we see their first aluminum engines that they built for their airplanes. In 1900, their first glider. 1901 and 1902, further developments, and by 1903, they had their first airplane with a motor. Here's a chart of the history of aviation, from gliders all the way to modern aircraft. Year of the beginning of the atomic age, 1905. Here at the beginning of the turn of the century, E equal mc squared. Einstein's equation gave birth to the atomic bomb. Albert Einstein's famous equation, E equal mc squared, for the first time connected the mass of an object with its energy and heralded a new world of physics. June 4, 1896, near the turn of the century, Henry Ford unveils the first automobile, the quadricycle, in Detroit. Industrial Revolution, 1760 to 1840. It started in England. Time of the end begins in 1798. The book of prophecy was closed up and sealed till the time of the end. But thou, Daniel, shut up the words, and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. The question was then asked, how long shall it be? And the answer was given, it shall be for a time, times and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. How long shall it be before the time of the end? Time, 1 year, times 2 years, and a half a year equals 3.5 years of the dark ages of papal rule. According to Seventh-day Adventist beliefs on prophecy, 1798 marks the year of the end of papal domination and rule of the then known world. It lasted from 538 AD to 1798, equal time, 1 year, times 2 years, and a half a year, or 3.5 years, equals 1260 days. Now, in the Bible, a day equals 1 year in prophecy. Hebrew year equals 360 days. Here's Justinian. He said, glory to God, who has thought me worthy to finish this work. Solomon, I have outdone you. The year 538 AD marks the transition of the end of Roman pagan civil rule to the beginning of papal domination, when Emperor Justinian's decree enforced religious laws upon the Holy Roman Empire. Orthodox papal Christianity was the accepted religion of the day, and all within its dominion must obey all ecclesiastical laws, which included Sunday worship as the day of rest. 1798 marks the end of papal rule when Pope Pius VII was taken captive by Napoleon's General Berthier and expelled from his dominion. 1798 is called the time of the end of the world because it marks the time period just before the second advent of Christ in the clouds of glory. Here we see the Roman Catholic Church, the papacy, took over the Roman Empire in 538 AD. There was a split in rulership during the Dark Ages, but did it matter which side you were living under? Here we have a chart of the 2300-day prophecy of Daniel 8:14. Justinian's decree in 538 marked the beginning of the papal domination of the Dark Ages, which lasted for 1260 years and ended in 1798. After 1798, the understanding of the prophecies of Daniel the prophet would be made known to the world. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Daniel 12:4. Primarily, knowledge shall be increased refers to the prophecies of Daniel, especially the 2300-day prophecy of Daniel 8:14. And he said unto me, unto 2300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. However, secondarily, it applies to the increase of all good knowledge in general. It could be in the arts, sciences, technology, medical field, astronomical information, physics, math, chemistry, computers, etc. You can say, can you prove it from the Bible? Well, in Proverbs 2:6, for the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. James 1:17. You will notice that shortly before 1798 and thereafter, knowledge and technology gains a little momentum. Then during the turn to the 20th century, there is an explosion of information and technology. The exponential growth of knowledge. In 1982, futurist and inventor R. Buckminster Fuller estimated that up until 1900, human knowledge doubled approximately every century. But by 1945, it was doubling every 25 years, and by 1982, it was doubling every 12 to 13 months. In retrospect, this may sound a little quaint, since experts now estimate that by 2020, human knowledge will double every 12 hours. And we're past 2020 already. Think about that. That's a tremendous amount of data accumulated in just 12 hours. Can you even comprehend what that amount of data collected would be like? A few more years, it will be every 6 hours. However, today, in just 24 hours, information has quadrupled in volume. Doubling means 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32 to 64 to 128, etc. Here we have a chart showing knowledge doubling. 1900s every century, 1940s every 25 years. Currently, which is already past 12 months, and currently it's every 12 hours since 1920. Here I have another chart showing the doubling. And notice on the bottom left of the chart, it says, from 1 AD to 1500 AD, it took 1500 years for knowledge to double. Now, would you rather have $1 million or a penny that doubles every day, doubles daily for 30 days? Okay, start on day 1 with 1 cent, and by day 30, you'll have over $5 million. This shows the power of doubling. Here we have a chart showing 1980 technology increasing from a hand, doing everything by hand, to water power, steam power, electric power, combustion power, and so forth. Accelerating growth in technology. Another chart. Here we have another chart, information age timeline. In the beginning, there were flags and torches used, then telegraph, all the way up to the internet and onward. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above. Think about it. You are God's creation. God has given you life, and all your abilities and talents come from God. Your ability to think and to do things come from the Father of lights. However, how you use them, you will have to answer to God for that. Getting back to the subject at hand, God designs and engineers everything he does. Well, let's take a look at ourselves as God's creation. Do you know that you are a machine with pipes, tubing, with one-way valves, pumps, heart and lungs, filters like the liver, kidneys, lymphatic system, and sensors, all of your 5 senses, a supercomputer, your brain, and wires, your nerves, and so forth? Now, as we go through this, consider God's design and engineering skills and abilities in everything that he has created. Here's the human body system. It's considered the most wonderful machine ever built. It's comprised of 11 systems that work together to support and sustain life. Why far more amazing? It has the ability to grow. It has the ability to repair itself. The human body systems, you have the respiratory, circulatory, digestive, urinary, skeletal, muscular system, and so forth. Here we have, for we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Ephesians 2:10. In the Psalms it says, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Could we say we are an incredibly complex machine? Definition of a machine from the internet: an apparatus using or applying mechanical power and having several parts, each with a definite function and together performing a particular task or tasks. A device that applies force, changes the direction of a force, or changes the strength of a force in order to perform a task. A living organism, or one of its functional systems. From Merriam-Webster's dictionary. A machine in any physical system with ordered structural and functional properties. It may represent human-made or naturally occurring device. Molecular machine that uses power to apply forces and control movement to perform an action. Notice, as we go over this presentation, God's impeccable capabilities and his utmost perfection in his design, engineering, and his creative abilities of what he has created in spite of the degrading effects of sin in this world. Understanding how design and engineering makes a difference in quality, reliability, and longevity. Now here we have best car manufacturers. We have American car and foreign car manufacturers. Is there a difference in the quality of the cars they produce from manufacturer to manufacturer and from models to models? Do you have an opinion of which models and cars or brands that you prefer? Could we say we are all living self-repairing robots? Could we say all living things are machines and are also living robots? Definition of a robot: a machine that resembles a living creature in being capable of moving independently, as by walking or rolling on wheels, and performing complex actions such as grasping and moving objects. Robot: an automatically operated machine that replaces human effort. Though it may not resemble human beings in appearance or perform functions in a human-like manner, by extension, robotics is the engineering discipline dealing with the design, construction, and operation of robots, using scientific principles, of course. The concept of artificial humans predates recorded history, but the modern term robot derives from the Czech word robota, forced labor or serf, used in Karel Čapek's play RUR 1920. The play's robots were manufactured humans, heartlessly exploited by factory workers until they revolted and ultimately destroyed humanity. Here we have photos of different kinds of robots. The integumentary system, the skin. Facts about your skin. Integument means covering. Integumentary system includes your skin, nails, hair, membranes, sweat, and oil glands. Surface area from 1.2 to 2.2 square meters. Weight 4 to 5 kilograms. Thickness 1.5 to 4 millimeters. 7% of average body weight for an adult. More skin facts. Protects and detoxifies your body. First line of immune defense against infections. Protects and stores vitamin D, which is important to your immune system. Rich in receptors. Protects your body. Repels water. Is permeable. Your skin is home to over 1 trillion individual bacteria. Over 1,000 different species. The integumentary system consists of hair, skin, nails, glands, and so forth. There are 3 layers of the skin. The epidermis, outer layer, that is a barrier to infection. Dermis, middle layer, that contains nerves, hair roots, sweat and oil glands, and blood vessels. Here we have the hypodermis, the 3rd layer, fat, blood, vessels, and connective tissues that help maintain body membrane. Can we call the skin a machine? A machine can be in any physical system with ordered structural and functional properties. It may represent human-made or naturally occurring device, molecular machine that uses power to apply forces and control movement to perform an action. Now, is the skin part of a physical system? Our bodies, which in itself is a physical system. Does it have ordered structural properties? How about functional properties? Does the skin help to keep the body intact when an action is performed, to keep it from falling apart? So I think we could say the skin as a whole is a machine. In the skin are oil and sweat glands, hair follicles, and adipose tissue, etc. Parts of the skin. The skin contains sweat and oil glands that help rid toxins out of the body. Sweat glands help to cool the body. Oil glands help to keep the skin from drying out. The hair helps to protect the body from the sun, and it also traps heat when it's cold outside. On the left, we have collagen, what collagen fibers look like under the microscope. On the right, we see the electron microscope observations of fibrils of collagen of the skin. Here we have the skin under the microscope, and here we have the skin, the dead layers of the skin, magnified under the electron microscope. The sebaceous oil gland. Now, is the oil gland a machine? Does it have structural and functional properties? How about the different parts that make up the sebaceous glands? Are they machines also? So what am I saying? I am saying that we are a machine made up of machine parts, and the machine parts are also machines, and so forth. Oil gland. An oil gland is made up of parts, as you can see. Recap. Every part of the skin is a machine in its own right. Every part of a part is a machine. And if that can be broken down into parts, each of those are also a machine. So on the left, we see a microscopic view of the oil gland. On the right, we see a microscopic view of the sweat gland. Are you God's creation? Does the Bible declare that he created you personally? Does he know who you are? Does he know everything about you, do you suppose? Psalms 139:13-14. For you created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalms 139:13-18, King James Version. For thou hast possessed my reins. Thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. My substance was not hid from thee when I was made in secret, and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect, and in thy book all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned, when as yet there was none of them. Did God actually knit you together? Fascia is a thin casing of connective tissue that surrounds and holds every organ, blood vessel, bone and nerve fiber, and muscle in place. The tissue does more than just provide internal structure. Fascia has nerves that make it almost as sensitive as skin. Can we call fascia a machine? It's been recently designated as an organ. All fascia is made up of mostly of collagen, one of the most common proteins in the body. Fascia, body knitting under your skin. You have to admit, we are all knitted together, as the Bible declares. Below, the fibrous layer of the pericardium is a simple connective tissue layer that is made up of collagen, type 1 and type 3 mainly, and elastin fibers. It is elastic and yet non-distensible. Getting the gist of all of this, cell anatomy. In the cell, there's mitochondria, vacuole, cytoplasm, Golgi complex, vesicles, lysosomes, centrioles, plasma membrane, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, microtubules, nucleus. Here we have a cell. Is it a machine? Does it have structural and functional properties? Are all the structures of the cell in and of itself a machine? Mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. Let's take a closer look at the mitochondria. We have the inner membrane space between the inner and outer membrane. We have the matrix inside of the inner membrane. Here we have the outer membrane. We have ribosomes within the matrix. Here we have organelles that produce ATPase. We have the cystae, DNA strands, and the inner membrane. The complexity of the mitochondria. Now, if we take a closer look at the outer membrane and inner membrane, we find there are protein complexes that have different functions, like produce enzymes. And here we have on the inner membrane more protein complexes, and here's one that produces ATP synthase. Now, in the inner membrane, we have these complexes. Here we have one that changes O2 to H2O, and here's another complex that changes ADP to ATP. Mitochondrial respiratory chain complexes. Here we have these protein complex 1, complex 3, complex 2, complex 4, and complex 5. This is part of the Krebs cycle to harness energy for the body. There are 10 billion chemical reactions per cell per second. Can we call these complexes machines or robots? Are we looking at a factory of sorts? Size of a typical human cell. A typical human cell is approximately 10 micrometers in diameter and enclosed by a membrane that is 4.4 nanometers thick. To simplify the calculations, model the cell as a sphere. Okay, 1 nanometer equals 1000 micrometers. So the diameter is 10 micrometers equals 10,000 nanometers, or 10 to the fourth power nanometers. Now micrometer equal millionth part of a meter. A nanometer is 1 billionth of a meter. Now here we have a chart showing the incredible small sizes of things. Atom, 100 picometers. We have small molecules from 1 nanometer and below. Here we have lipids and protozoa from 10 nanometers and below. Here we have a virus from 100 nanometers and below. Here we have protozoa and organelles 1 micrometer and above. And above 10 micrometers to 100 micrometers we have the human cell. And we can see here the human eye can't see below 100 micrometers, or actually much less. And light microscope can only see down to bacteria, and you need an electron microscope to see things smaller than bacteria. All right, here we have the human cell. But in the human body, it's all packed together. And there are 4 types of connective tissue that connects these cells together. And here we have the stem cell that produces all the other cells of the body. Proteins, the building blocks of life. You can see most of the body is made of protein, but the cell membrane is made of lipid analogs. Krebs cycle, or the citric acid cycle. The sequence of reactions by which most living things generate energy during the process of aerobic respiration. It takes place in the mitochondria, consuming oxygen, producing carbon dioxide and water as waste products, and converting ADP to energy-rich ATP. From Quora of the internet. On average, how many chemical reactions happen in the body in 1 second? It's tough to say exactly how many cells are in the human body, but the most current estimate is 37.2 trillion. Now there's only 2 trillion, estimated 2 trillion galaxies in the universe. Now lowest estimate of stars in the universe, 10 to the 22nd power versus 37 to the 21st power reactions per second of the human body. Here's one person that says, I understand chemistry. He's saying 37,000 billion chemical reactions per second. That's 37 with 21 zeros after it. Now, here's another person that says, to put it in simplistic terms, there are more chemical reactions happening in the body in 1 second than there are stars in our universe. Everything from thoughts to speech to going to the bathroom requires chemical reactions. Signals between cells, your heart beating unconsciously, all happen via chemical reactions. Truly fascinating. Now, normal flora of the human body. Lowest estimate of all stars in the universe is 10 to the 22nd power to 10 to the 24th power, or up to 40 to the 24th power. It's been calculated that a human adult houses 10 to the 12th bacteria on the skin, 10 to the 10th in the mouth, and 10 to the 14th in your gut. More bacteria than human cells. 10 to the 12th plus 10 to the 10th plus 10 to the 14th equal 10 to the 36th power. That's more than the stars in the universe. It goes only 10 to the 24th, 40 to the 24th at the most. Now, 10 to the 36th power plus 37 to the 12th equal 37 to the 48th power of cells that make up the human body. Now, 10 to the 9th reactions per cell plus 37 to the 48th power equals 37 to the 57th power of chemical reactions per second per human body. More human cells than stars in the universe, and lots of chemical reactions. So, if the structures of the mitochondria have structural and functional properties, can they be considered machines? Now, what about the chemicals that take part in the chemical reactions in the cell or the mitochondria? Can they be considered machines? Take, for instance, enzymes and ATP. Do these have structural and functional properties? Can proteins be considered machines? Hey, everything seems to be a machine, made up of machines in the human body. Every chemical reaction, including reactions that happen inside a living organism, requires an input of energy. The energy needed to start the payout in glycolysis is coming from. Now, from YouTube video, Inner Life of a Cell. What are vesicles? These are these large sacs that carry cargo. Instead, large molecules are loaded into small membrane-wrapped containers called vesicles. There are transport vesicles, move molecules, nutrients within the cells, and there are secretory vesicles, which contain materials that are to be excreted from the cell, such as waste and hormones. Now look at this in the red circle. That's a robot. Here we have a little protein robot with two hands-like and two leg-like appendages, carrying a vesicle and walking on this microtubule from one part of the cell to another. How does it know where to go? What's making it walk? Here we have this brown appendages as legs, walking one step at a time on this microtubule. And in this lower left, we see proteins coming together to form this microtubule. Now, how does everything know where to go in the cell? Now, here's a caption for this. It says, these are tiny molecular machines, and they are all doing this inside your body right now. Here we have in red a robot protein walking with two legs going to the right. In the yellow and in the blue are these proteins, robots, walking to the left. How does it know where to go? Who's directing the traffic? They don't have a brain. Here's a close-up of one of these robots with two legs. End of part 1 of 3.